Hello. It's a Wednesday. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Rich Hoffman's here. We're going to hear from E.J. Smith at the Novacare Complex. And Mina Kimes of ESPN will tell us what she thinks is going on with the Eagles ahead of a big game against the Vikings this weekend. Coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hello, everybody! Live from the Xfinity studio and presented by Bet365 and Ashley. This is the PHLY Eagles podcast on a beautiful Wednesday. Bo Wolf, handsome Rich Hoffman, coming at you in a little bit. We're going to hear from Mina Kimes of ESPN on the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. We're going to hear from E.J. Smith, who has talked with Nick Sirianni and has presumably completed one of the laziest lunch orders I've ever seen in my life. We can get into that later. How you doing, handsome Rich?
I'm doing great, man. How'd the mini buy treat you?
Good. We went to a dinosaur museum on Sunday. Nice to have a Sunday with no football. That was cool. Got to dig for fossils. That was fun.
Dinosaur museum?
Yeah, there's a one
Franklin
in no, the Edelman something. It's in where Corey Clement's from.
Oh, Glassboro.
Yeah, it's like right in Glassboro. Very cool place.
Yeah.
Great museum. And then they have like a whole pit with like just fossils you can dig up. It's very cool.
Who knew Glassboro had a dinosaur museum?
Yeah. I believe it's a Rowan University type.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Good
I mean,
stuff.
I did a
highly recommended for the dino kids out there.
Absolutely, yeah. I did a story on Corey Clement once. Flex.
Big flex.
He
Still hard for me to nail his pronunciation.
Oh yeah. I just go with what
that was a big thing in 2017. I kept saying Clement.
It's Clement, right?
It's Clement.
It's one of those things though where I just go with what I'm feeling that day. Unfortunately,
yeah.
It's bad. I wish I was better with that, but you know. So anyway, yeah, he was a star at Glassboro High, which is literally right across the street from Rowan University, and I believe the crux of that story, right, the origin story for Corey Clement was he was in a barbershop and Big Dom.
Right there. I remember there's a Big Dom tie-in. Yeah,
Big Dom befriended him when he was a teenager, like a high school football star, just because they went to the same barbershop. And Big Dom was the guy who sort of sealed the deal when he
vouched for him, yeah.
Undrafted free agent. He was the guy who called.
That's right.
Yeah.
And speaking of Corey Clement, we got another member of the 2017 Eagles team potentially facing off with the Eagles this week.
That's true.
Great job on that thumb by Julia, in her swang song as the full-time producer of this show. How are we feeling, Julia? A little wistful.
Yeah, it's just
emotional. Oh wow, you really tugged the heartstrings with that one.
Listen,
realize we'd be getting tears 4 minutes in.
Do you have a toxic ex?
Do I have a toxic ex? No, I don't.
No good ex stories?
No. You?
How about you, Julia?
I wouldn't say toxic, but definitely one that
some exes.
One that still gets talked about and I get made fun of for, yeah.
Oh, what's that? What's the story there?
You shouldn't have said anything, Julia.
I know. Interesting. It just has an interesting name. He was a very odd character, and now he's full blown into conspiracy theories. So it's yeah, it's bad.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
Get into the YouTube algorithm a little too much.
Some of the longtime sickos will remember the funny story about my ex where it created the anytime somebody dies, people will text me, famous person dead, because years after we had broken up, I would just get a text like Bernie Mac dead. Okay. No context, nothing, just breaking the news. Great. Thanks for letting me know.
From your ex?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, did you guys talk about famous people a lot when you were dating? Was that the...
No, I mean, not really. Not in there was. I promise you, there was no context to like just checking in with whoever is dead.
Damn,
Yeah. And not even is dead, just named dead.
Bernie Mac dead.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. I remember. I think it was like 2008.
Yeah.
Too soon.
And so now every time I'll get a Diane Keaton dead text. Yeah, I know.
Tough one.
A tough one. I like Diane Keaton.
Favorite Diane Keaton role? Because you've probably watched. I think you've definitely watched more movies than I have. So I have probably 2 of her most well-known films.
It's a good question. I don't want to be problematic.
I'm going to be problematic with the one I'm going to say.
I mean, I would guess Annie Hall.
Annie Hall would be one. I also think Godfather 2, like some of the scenes that she has with Pacino is, whew, I don't know. It's very, very intense stuff.
One of the greats.
Yes.
All right, let's talk Eagles. How do you feel? You did a great job on Monday. And by the way, awesome job comparing the bullpen to edge rushers. Wow. Give it up for Handsome Rich for pulling that one together. I mean,
very well rounded.
Deserve a parade for that one.
Really, though, I think the credit goes to EJ for gassing that up as well. It's a teamwork element to that, Bo. Yeah.
And stay tuned for when EJ joins later because we're going to get into the laziness thing. We're going to litigate that on the show. So that's what should keep you hanging around.
Yeah, man. It's okay. Well,
here's my question for you. Yesterday, EJ and I talked about, we sort of relitigated the offseason and the moves and how he made. If you could change one thing of Howie's offseason, what would it be?
I think it's what you guys settled on, where I think the easiest move would be just Isaiah Rodgers. Figure that out, because I think they probably were going to have to make that midseason trade for an edge rusher anyway. It's a tough one, though. I mean, do you bring back Josh Sweat for, what did he sign for, like $24 million? Like what was the exact?
Yeah, I think he was 19.
19, okay, yeah. Maybe I'm getting him and Milt mixed up a little bit. Would Josh Sweat have tangibly changed things right now? He would help.
I think he would have changed things, but I don't know. You wouldn't have done that instead of Bond, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, I think in terms of the high price free agents, they prioritize Bond, and I think that's clearly still the right move. I think this season is sort of, we've seen that play out. Honestly, man, to me, as much as the defense just feels undermanned at this point, and Howie is going to have to make a move of some sort at midseason, at the trade deadline here, to me, and this is not as exciting to talk about, it's just weird to see the offensive line struggling.
Yeah.
So here's a question.
And they're not injured. I cannot remember. I've been covering the team since 2009. I don't think that I've ever seen an Eagles team where the offensive line was healthy and mediocre. I am old, so maybe I'm just forgetting, but
and sure,
I can't remember that.
I'm sure people would point out that Dickerson was banged up and then he goes out for Toth, and that's a big deal. But these guys have dealt with one midseason injury. Like they had Fred Johnson play for Mailata for a full month last year. And I understand that the healthy guys might even be a little bit banged up from playing an extra month of football.
I think that's been a good theory from EJ that he has written about, that in possibly the tush push itself has had a negative effect on the guys on the offensive line.
So actually, to your point of, has there ever been a time when the Eagles offensive line was relatively healthy and not elite? I mean, they're probably sub good right now. I think you could probably get the average at best. I don't watch the offensive lines of every single team in the NFL. But to your point, I was looking back at the depth charts. Shout out to our lads for having a depth chart from every month.
Not your lads, not my lads. Our lads, baby.
But anyway, so the years where the Eagles have really tanked, and I forget who has said this. It might have been a bunch of you, that Howie Roseman's theory on this is like, when the Eagles have a bad year, it's usually because the offensive line has issues one way or another. When you go back to December 2020, that was the last year of it sort of struggling. Yeah, that sort of made sense. You some Matt Pryor in there. Maybe he's the common thread here.
Okay.
Nate Herbig was involved.
Love a Herbig. Do you remember what his most talented thing was in the media guide?
No, I don't.
My favorite thing.
What if I said yes to that?
Secret talent, floating in water. Yes. Probably my favorite media guide nugget ever.
I mean,
because how good do you have to be at floating in water for that to be your secret hidden talent?
imagine if he was like, no, man, you don't understand. It's different.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see, like, what is he talking about?
You got to see it, man. You got to see it. So, yeah, so that was 2020. Also, a very green Jordan Mailata as well. So, and a not so green Jason Peters as well on that line. So, okay, I think that certainly fits the theory. 2015, which was another disastrous season. Now, that wasn't completely Howie's team, as we all remember, but you had Matt Tobin and Alan Barber out there in December. Now, they were playing with three probable Hall of Famers in Peters, Kelsey, and Lane as well. I don't know. I think that might have just been Chip's offense was broken and the personnel management on that team. And then the other one was 2012, which obviously that's a long time ago at this point. But that was the year that Peters, he ruptured his Achilles in the offseason. Demetrius Bell and King Dunlap. Kelsey also tore his ACL, I believe, week 2 of that. No, he wasn't Jason Kelsey.
So you got David Molk playing a bunch of games?
Yes, there was a Dallas Reynolds, I think, was in there as well. Yeah. So this is different, right? I think when you have the caliber of names that we're seeing here.
I'm just bringing back all of these old memories that I've probably talked about on the show over the years, but Dallas Reynolds always makes me think of, and Fran is in the chat, he already knows exactly where I'm going, is there was the best face I've ever seen Les make was a scrum around Andy, and they were about to play the Cowboys, and the reporter,
6 ABC anchor.
ABC asked, hey, Andy, like, was it going to be weird having Dallas Reynolds play in Dallas and Les is behind Andy and just goes, just like the most incredulous, cannot believe that this question was just asked. And he was right. Credit to Les.
I mean, did that reporter back it up when Goddard got here?
I know. I don't know. I don't know if he revisited that line of questioning.
Oh, man. Well, I got to give Les credit because when there's like a question that makes me cringe, I cannot really hide it with a facial expression.
Yeah.
I can hide it a lot better than Les can.
I'm not very good at hiding it either, but yeah, Les is the best. Yeah, you want to know where you stand.
Yeah. Okay, so question for you.
Okay.
Do you think that the run blocking has been worse than the pass blocking so far?
Yes. I do. And what is hard here, and I'm sure Fran can get into this tomorrow, but is the predictability of it, is the lack of variety in the running game putting them in a bad spot? I think that's part of it, and that's it's something where there's a little bit of everything. I also think that and I know that people are saying in the chat like, well, they're not healthy, but they're healthy enough to play. Dickerson's banged up. Juergens is playing, but he's banged up. Mailata was banged up all summer. Lane is 75 years old. It's hard, but it's also part of the reason why I don't think that they did a good enough job this offseason preparing for this possibility. They didn't have a day 2 pick ready to potentially step in. And I think they probably would have liked to if the board had fallen that way. But instead, you've got Miles Hinton and Cam Williams, and they can't get on the field. And so you got to trade for Fred Johnson. You cross your fingers with Matt Pryor and Brett Toth. They have not given it the infusion of resources that they have in the past.
It's not... it's funny, like you thought about when is Tyler Steen going to be able to play, but you didn't realize maybe quite the value of Tyler Steen as your 6th offensive lineman,
exactly.
Being able to put him in there. And I'm not saying he was perfect last season, but he was pretty competent. And so I agree with you. To my eyes, the pass blocking has been a lot better, and that is sort of more the issues with the pass game, for whatever they are, is kind of the lack of rhythm, the routes, maybe the play design or whatever. Now, you mentioned the lack of design maybe in the running game. I thought it was very interesting that Lane Johnson was like, run the ball on the outside a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
very prescriptive, yes.
And to that point, I mean, it makes sense when you have, right now you have Brett Toth, who's clearly your weak spot there on the offensive line. And you also have Steen inside as well, who, I mean, to my eyes, and you can correct me on this, I'd defer to you. he hasn't stuck out as good or bad. I would say, like,
I think that's fair. Yeah,
I think the difference is
he's a normal starting right guard.
I think the difference is that even to the untrained eye like myself, like there were a bunch of weeks last year where you were like, Mekhi Becton in the run game is moving people just a ton. So there is a difference when it comes to the run game. And then you have that first play against the Giants last week where they give the ball to Saquon on the outside. You have Cam Jurgens, who is, I think, probably struggling a little bit more than he has in past years as well, but doing the normal Cam Jurgens thing where he's pulling and then Saquon gets the cutback lane. They actually ran that play. It might have been on the next series, and Jordan Mailata actually just whiffed on the block. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe that is the answer. But yeah, they're gonna have to figure something out there. It's funny. I was thinking this is to bring it back to maybe like a little bit of food talk. It's Jeff Stoutland's Chopped era right now, where like we know when he gets those amazing ingredients, like what he can do. Maybe you're going to a farm in Lancaster County and getting the high end stuff. We know that he can make a 5-star meal, but now you're
speaking Jalen Hurts language.
Now you're getting a hodgepodge of stuff now, though. Like, I don't know, maybe like some goat cheese and some chicken cutlets. Like, make a meal out of that, Jeff Stoutland.
I would eat that.
Yeah, well, hey, look, you got to make it above average. Yeah. And I think, by the way, Jeff Stoutland is more than capable of doing that. So that's the other weird thing with this offensive line. The I would say like the institutional knowledge that they have, how long most of the people have been in that room working together. I feel like they should be able to figure this out at some point, whether it's an element of just, obviously the individual guys got to play a little bit better. I certainly think it's got to get schemed a lot better. But yeah, I feel like the pass blocking has been better. I feel like when they went empty in the last game, when Jalen Hurts just had to get rid of the ball right away and the offensive line had to hold up for a few seconds, I felt like that worked better than when they leave two tight ends in the block and there's only 3 guys out in the route.
I agree with that.
Where it's like
it hasn't been perfect.
Yeah,
but it hasn't been the biggest problem with the passing game. And I think you could say that the blocking has been the biggest problem with the running game, potentially.
It's almost like it's been flipped where you often hear like, all right, our coverage can't hold up for X amount of seconds, where I think it's been flipped on the Eagles where it's like, look, the offensive line, when it comes to pass blocking, has been okay, at least, but they can't hold up for X amount of seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. But I do think the run game and the offensive line playing better, that is, as boring as it sounds, and as much as there might not be a ton more. I mean, I'm sure, running to the outside and there are some schematic fixes for sure, better play sequencing, all of that stuff. But just those guys getting together and playing a little bit better than they have, I think that's the biggest answer to them being, let's call it kind of a less frenetic offense in terms of all the 3 and outs and all those plays.
I think that's all well said, as they say. Handsome Rich. All right, time to take a quick break to hear from some sponsors. On the other side, Mina Kimes joins us to talk about some of these same issues and where the Eagles stand relative to the rest of the league. Holiday steals are here at Ashley. It's the perfect time to get your home ready for the season and save big. From stunning dining sets for all your holiday feasts to super cozy sectionals perfect for movie nights, we have everything you need to make this season magical. And the more you shop, the more you save, with up to 25% off store-wide, or take advantage of our special financing with 5 years no interest. Discover great deals in-store and online only at Ashley.
And hey, it's October, and when the weather turns chilly, the last thing that you need is your home project piling up. And Ace Hardware Home Services brings trusted local pros right to your door to help you get your home ready for the colder months. And that can be a lot of things, from heating tune-ups to plumbing fixes to generators and emergency repairs. There's a ton of stuff that goes wrong around your house, guys. And the experts at Ace handle it all. No guesswork and no stress. Just a local pro to get the job done right. Satisfaction guaranteed. Find the help that you need for your next home project at acehardwarehomeservices.com.
Holiday steals are here at Ashley. It's the perfect time to get your home ready for the season and save big. From stunning dining sets for all your holiday feasts to super cozy sectionals perfect for movie nights, at Ashley, they've got everything you need to make this season magical. And the more you shop, the more you save, with up to 25% off store-wide, or take advantage of special financing with 5 years, no interest. Discover great deals in-store and online only at Ashley. And speaking of Ashley, PHLY Eagles podcast, joined as we are every other Wednesday by Mina Kimes of ESPN. Mina, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for week 7.
Excited for week 7. Now, last we talked, the Eagles were undefeated, but we said things did not seem so great under the surface. And since then, 2 straight losses. What has been your view on what we've seen the last 2 weeks? And I guess especially sort of the decrepit performance against the Giants.
Decrepit. That's such a great word. I think that the offensive issues that they have been kind of avoiding, or at least, there's been a good half of offense and a bad half of offense, and then they flipped it, kind of came to a head. The defense, I'm a little bit less worried about, not a little bit, a lot less worried about. They lost their 2 best players against the Giants, right? And if anything, I think it just shows that this is a very top-heavy group, which we knew. I feel like that was the one doubt I maybe had about the Eagles going into the season, or my biggest concern was like, this is a stacked team. They're really talented, but there's a few load-bearing players here. And if you take them out, particularly obviously the ones that they were missing against New York, it becomes a serious issue. But the offense feels more like structural. Sorry, I don't know why I keep doing construction analogies. the offense,
I think that's my fault.
Like the bigger problem, and the one that they've really got to get figured out.
So where do we start, Mina? I mean, we've talked a lot about how multi-layered the issues that the Eagles offense faces. I heard you and Stephen A. Shouting back and forth last week about
I missed this.
Some of the things that ail the Eagles offense. And I specifically wanted to ask you about like the evolution we're seeing from defenses against the Eagles offense, the fire zones that you and Dan talked about. What are you seeing from that perspective? And again, just like generally, where would you start with this Eagles offense?
Yeah, the fire zones and the coverages they're seeing, and some of the predictability and the passing problem are all things that they need to address. But I think the fact that they're facing them and that they're thwarting this thing stems from the inability to run the ball, right? Because if they could run the ball, not even at the level they were last year, if they could run the ball at an above average level, then I don't think they would constantly be put in these passing situations. And this is when the Eagles offense was at its best. You guys know this obviously very well. They were a math problem for defenses. If you drop an extra safety to stop the run, then they can kill you in the one-on-ones. But if you play split safety or light in the box, they'll punish you on the ground. The problem is they're not punishing anyone on the ground right now. So I actually think, if I'm Philadelphia, the inability to run is almost like what you really want to, like, you got to get that figured out right now. Because to me, it's sort of all flowing from there. And I will say, too, with this obviously very daunting matchup against a Vikings defense that basically measures in all of the things that are giving the Eagles pass game problems, the Vikings defense on tape has really struggled to stop the run over the last couple of weeks. Not just on tape. I always say on tape. That was so pretentious. Just generally, they've struggled to stop the run. You don't need to watch tape to see that. So there's an opportunity here for the Eagles and Saquon Barkley to take advantage of them on the ground. But obviously, it's one they haven't been able to do so far.
And what is particularly interesting here is something we've talked about on the show today, which is that there are a lot of things like the drama here is very familiar to Eagles fans. What is very unfamiliar to Eagles fans over the past decade plus is having an offensive line that is just mediocre and it's not injured. I don't know what the explanation for that is. Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens are obviously banged up. Tyler Steen is a different kind of player than Mekhi Becton. He's not as powerful in the run game. Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson are not having their best seasons. I don't know what the answer for that is, but it does feel like they should have the horses there to be able to flip the switch. I don't have a reason why that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I think like all great things in the NFL get worse over time, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so
I think you can stop in the NFL. Just
yeah,
period.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's good. Yeah, getting deep here. So I think inevitably it's like, yeah, we can't just beat up people the way they did a couple years ago, last year too. But I think you could also ask whether or not the run scheme is doing the offensive line any favors. I was really struck by Lane's comments. I'm sure you guys have gotten into this on your show after the game, where he was pretty outspoken about feeling like the offense was too predictable at the moment. And this is something Dan's talked about a little bit on NFL Live, just the formational tells with Saquon, the lack of, obviously, the Eagles offense, they don't use a lot of motion, and the predictability, though, and down and distance. It's not just that the offensive line isn't maybe winning. It's that defenses know the run is coming. They know the type of run is coming. And crucially, this is something that I've been getting into a bit about live. It doesn't seem to me like they're afraid of Hurts as a keeper. And that's, so much of what the Eagles did with the gun run game was based on having a numbers advantage, because linebackers had to either account for Hurts or get punished for doing so. And it doesn't feel like that's the dynamic right now. So if you don't have that, if you're, as a gun running team, if you're not able to beat them with numbers, you have to find other ways to create advantages and help your offensive linemen. I feel like they're not doing that right now.
And EJ, is your understanding, because listen, it's the same run game coordinator, it's the same personnel for the most part. This could be a Patullo thing. It could be a Jalen Hurts thing, that he doesn't want to run as much. What's your read on it?
Yeah, I think the latter is something that's on my radar this week. I do wonder how Jalen factors into this, especially I feel like that is the thing that you always have to bake in with these things. Like Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts have been the constants. So I think the lack of quarterback inclusive run game that we've seen from the Eagles, I do think that it's a fair question to ask that if Jalen is a big part of that. Mina, something I wanted to ask you about, because I did watch the film of some of those explosive runs that the Vikings defense had. I saw the Falcons use pistol formations a lot with success to break off some explosive runs. And we've seen the Eagles use pistol, but the predictability has really kind of held that back, it seems like. So my question is how do you see the Falcons using pistol to kind of get advantageous run looks? And is it different than what we've seen from the Eagles?
Well, the Falcons, when they use pistol, they use a lot of motion to try to displace second level defense. They use motion across the board, but it is something that they're constantly doing. They're constantly sending guys back and forth in the backfield to just try to move and then they're also occasionally giving it to actually make defenses respect those threats. So I think that's something that they've done exceptionally well. I would also say Bijan is a very unique runner with the level of vision he's getting from the pistol, as opposed from he is really, really good at himself individually setting up second level defenders and these little subtle things that he does. So that might be a little bit specific to him. But I would also add and this is not a scheme thing, the Falcons' offensive line is getting more push on these zone concepts than I see in Philadelphia. They're really, really playing well together. I mean, what they did against Buffalo was remarkable, given that they were losing their tackles, and they were still, I think the interior in particular played really well in that game. But they're really, really, really they're pushing guys around, moving as one. But yeah, I would say off the top of my head, they probably use motion on those pistol gun runs at the highest rate of any team in the NFL by a pretty significant margin. And the Vikings struggled with that, but the other thing to note, though, is they were missing their middle linebacker, Blake Cashman, who might be returning this week. That's something to monitor. I think that has they're also missing Harrison Smith, who's gone, who's not coming back. So I think that this Vikings defense is a little bit worse against the run than they were last year, maybe more than a little bit. And I think the absence of Cashman really compounded that.
Let's talk about the passing game matchup on this side of the ball, because you mentioned it. Listen, the Eagles have, the secret is out that these sim pressures are really getting to the passing game, and you can tell that there are times when the protection is they're keeping 7 guys in to protect, and they've just guessed wrong, and the defense is dropping 8. And this has happened multiple times. And Jalen Hurts is in charge of the protections. This is a thing that he acknowledges he has to improve at. But as you said, this is a defense that is probably going to give him more pre-snap issues than any defense in football. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, it's tricky. I went back to see when the last time Jalen Hurts played Brian Flores, and it was September 2023, right? So
early, yeah.
Yeah, but it was early, so it was kind of it was very early in the Brian Flores Vikings defense transformation. So and it was a bunch of different players, but I have a little bit of trouble over attributing too much to that game. But you
Yeah,
said
they were. Yeah, I remember that game. They were still coming off like a really like low level of talent on defense. Cousins threw a couple interceptions in the red zone. Yeah.
And Flores was still figuring it out, and he started, I think, really leaning into a lot of the stuff that we see now, the sims and blitzes from the split safety structure, like, as the year went on, and he got really, really good at it. But yeah, I think it's so funny because I remember very distinctly ahead of the Super Bowl after the Rams game, noticing that he really struggled with some of this. The Eagles' operation struggled with some of the sim pressures that the Rams were throwing at him, and then being a little bit surprised that they didn't, that Kansas City didn't lean into it more during the Super Bowl. But I would say, you have to look at what teams who have beaten this defense have done well. Detroit has been pretty successful against it, but there's been other quarterbacks, even like the Bears with Caleb Williams. There's been moments, and a lot of it is, first of all, running the ball really helps. I know it sounds boring, but like you want to be able to run them out of some of these pressures and obviously get into favorable down and distances. And because so much of the pressures come on earlier, some of the gamesmanship happens on early downs, right? But beyond that, like post snap, you have to see where the voids are in the defense. He has to be able to okay, this guy's coming, this guy's not. Usually if you watch this Brian Flores defense, there is space to attack, but you have to have a quarterback who's able and willing to attack it. And also willing to challenge them over the top, right? Because they do leave themselves vulnerable to the deep ball at times. So it's a lot. It's a lot like on the plate of the quarterback. Actually, there's things that the play caller can do to help them out, and answers that he can give him, and the offensive line, obviously. But like you said, if you're leaving guys in to protect and you only have a couple of options in the passing game, I think being cognizant of where those voids are, where to attack, where they're vulnerable, and making sure you have skill players actually attacking that part of the field as opposed to just outside the numbers the way the Eagles play is going to be really important.
Well, that's right. It plays into the predictability because Brian Flores knows what to expect. And so he's going to leave the spots open that the Eagles don't usually attack, right? And so the Eagles are going to have to, zig when he's expecting them to zag. Go ahead.
So, Mina, I've spent, the whole mini bye, like worried about a lot of the things that ail the Eagles passing game, the offense in general. But then I zoomed out and I watched Sunday's games and Monday night's games and sort of realized like it seems like across the league there isn't one or two teams that are really running away with like the early Super Bowl contention flag here. So I'm curious, like, how do the Eagles' problems compare to some of the other teams at the top of the NFL through 6 weeks, and how it seems like there are a lot of imperfect teams that are sort of making up the list of contenders.
Every team is flat right now, right? So just staying in the NFC, obviously where the Eagles play, Cowboys have no defense. Commanders, who just lost, have a good offense, a good running game, but I think there's flaws in the offense and the defense. Defense in particular, you saw get just run on by Chicago. That really jumped out to me as being like, ooh, this could be a problem moving forward. The Rams have defensive issues too, and I think they just lost Puka Nacua. So that's an issue. The Bucs are I think a lot of people would probably have them as the best team in the NFC right now, and I think that's fair. But if you dig a little bit into the advanced metrics, I think they're winning a lot of close games. They're getting there's things happening that could regress for them, no doubt. And I think defensively they have weaknesses in the passing in coverage as well. The Packers are, remain somewhat. I think they're like actually incredibly balanced, but they're still kind of flawed from an execution standpoint. The Lions have major defensive issues. You really saw that against Kansas City. I don't mean to be like boring and spell them all out, but just like every team does have like a legitimate flaw. So when I look at this Eagles team, I think that the defense, if they're healthy, is fine. I really do, if they're healthy. I know pass rush is a problem, and obviously you had the weird retirement thing, but they'll get Nolan Smith back, they'll get Jalen Carter back. Maybe you trade for a rusher, but I'm not terribly worried. I think coverage is good enough when those guys are healthy. Offensively, you got to get this figured out. It's almost good news though that it's not to be like Pollyannish, but it's week 7. You got the whole season to figure this out. It would be worse, I actually think, if this was happening at the end of the year and like in the playoffs, right? And the offense, they've got time to try to come up with solutions. They've come up with solutions in the past to problems on offense. But it is, like one of the great challenges of Nick Sirianni's coaching career.
Yeah, it does seem like being around in the building, it feels like these guys are like waiting for the inflection point. You know, that last year it was like, they're going to become a run first team. You know, obviously Nick Sirianni handing over play calling a few years ago. It seems like they're trying to will that to happen.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more worried about the defense than both of you guys are.
We know.
But
We know.
Pass rush, or is it the pass rush you're worried about, or just the fragility of it?
It's all of it. Yeah, the pass rush and the coverage. I mean, they can't find a corner two. And I know they were without Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell in that game. But last year, this was a team that was like out physicaling everybody, and they were just getting blown off the ball. They did not look like a physical team.
Yeah.
Maybe you wave that away as a short week, but it just felt like the kind of thing that the dam could break here. Do you have a unifying theory as to why it does feel different that every team is flawed through 6 weeks? Is that just being a prisoner of the moment?
I think that if I had to put my finger on it, maybe like the teams with really great quarterbacks that have paid those quarterbacks a lot of money have not been able to compensate for it elsewhere on their roster. And then the other teams are still trying to figure out the quarterback position, maybe. I don't know. That might be it if I had to go, right? Like, because I think most of the teams that I mentioned with defensive problems have expensive quarterbacks, expensive offenses. So that could be it, perhaps. And you know, I think like there's a lot of young quarterbacks on rookie contracts who are good, but they're not the best quarterbacks in the league right now.
Before you go, we should ask you very quickly. We don't know who's going to start for the Vikings at quarterback, but what should we expect from that offense?
I know. I was just looking this up from my own podcast. By the way, check it out, Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. We will preview and pick this game.
What's the deal? You have a new page or something?
Philadelphia. I finally launched a show Instagram, so you can follow that Mina Kimes Show. We're gonna do power rankings by Lenny every week there, exclusive Lenny content. The number one complaint I get about my podcast is there's not enough Lenny, so there you go.
That's Julia's
complaint as well. One of those people complaining. We need more Lenny. Yeah.
It's routinely the number one YouTube comment I get. So we will preview and pick this game. You can hear us discuss it in detail, and if you want to go check out
good tease
to win, go check out the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. But anyway, so I was just looking up the Vikings quarterback thing, and I kind of like threw up my hands at one point. I was like, does it matter?
Right.
It does matter. I think it's going to be J.J. McCarthy reading the tea leaves. So I was kind of like trying to read all the beat reporters and listen to what they were saying. But that makes it almost harder to, I wouldn't say it makes it harder per se, but like whether or not the Vikings offense can be functional, to me, just comes down to whether or not J.J. McCarthy can bring down that time to throw at all, because right now it's pretty brutal. So remains to be seen. I don't think from the Eagles standpoint, there's a clear advantage or disadvantage in facing either quarterback, though, to be honest.
The emotional.
Right, exactly.
The Wentz revenge.
It's almost like there's nothing that could go worse than losing to Carson Wentz. So like let's avoid that possibility.
That could definitely spark a meltdown in Philadelphia.
All right, Mina Kimes, go check out the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. Get the followers up on that Instagram. Thank you very much, Mina. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Mina.
Bye, guys.
Back with more on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way on the Bet Parks online casino app. Check out brand new casino games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, a Bet Parks exclusive. It's the only app I ever use to play all my favorite casino games in the palm of my hand. You've got blackjack, you've got roulette, you've got craps, poker, baccarat, and hot online slots like Cash Eruption, 88 Fortunes, and Cleopatra. You can play hot online slots based on your favorite streaming shows like Walking Dead, Squid Game, Breaking Bad, and The Peaky Blinders. New users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. You can go to betparks.com and download the app right now and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for Bet Parks. You love to play. You play to win. You bet. Bet Parks. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And guys, fall's here. That means crisp air, football, maybe a bonfire or two. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in hard work. And yeah, that means sweat. And do not let body odor sideline you. You know that feeling. It's game day and you've been working hard all week. Your lucky jersey, it might be smelling a little too lucky. But there's a real game changer here, guys. And that is Mando deodorant plus sweat control. This isn't just another cover-up. Mando is one stick, two jobs, powerful odor, but also sweat control. And, that clinical strength sweat control, one swipe, and you are good to go. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. That's PHLY at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. That's shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness.
All right, we are back on the PHLY Eagles podcast. And speaking of cream tubes, we head to the Xfinity mobile call-in line at the NovaCare complex and welcome in our Eagles insider, EJ Smith. EJ, long time no see.
Cream tube?
Yeah, he's talking about cream
What are we
tube
doing here?
deodorant. I feel like, you're a walking cream tube.
Hate that. I really, really hate that. We've been talking a lot this week about things that have been hitting my ear wrong, and that is definitely one of them.
Okay, let's get to.
You're not going to make it through the segment. It's just going to be me and Rich talking.
Let's get to the big news of the day, which is your lunch order. Now, let's unpack this. There's a place DJ likes, a place we go often, that is a block and a half away, I would say. You decided, listen, our elevator's down. I don't really know how that factors in at this point, considering you were going down. We recorded the Mina hit, and then you're heading off to the NovaCare complex. And you said, how lazy on a scale of 1 to 10 would it be for me to get this delivered to the building as opposed to walking a block and a half to get it? And I said, well, you know what? What do you think that is, Rich? You know the place we're talking about?
No, but it's a block and a half away.
It's a block and a half away, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a solid 7 or 8.
Yeah. I gave it a 9. I mean,
I said like a 6 or a 7.
Wild stuff.
Well, wouldn't the move have been, because I believe EJ was going to drive to NovaCare?
He could have done that. Yeah, that would have been the efficient way to do it.
You stop there on the
Here's
way.
Here's the part that Bo very conveniently has left out of this story is that the place closes at 2, and it's probably like 1:30, 1:35 at this time. So I thought I could either rush out of the studio and go get my lunch and never see these guys until 2:30 on the PHLY Eagle show. But realistically, I thought, like, let me hang out with my coworkers. Bo acts like this delivery person is like some like martyr who like doesn't get paid. Like, this is the easiest delivery they're going to make all day. They're going to get I tip well. They get a good tip to bring it a block and a half. It sits at the bottom of the stairs, so when I leave, it's there waiting for me. But in the meantime, I honestly have no regrets because I had a great conversation with Handsome Rich, one that Bo kind of inserted himself into midway through, which is very on brand for you. So honestly, I feel great about the decision. I thought it worked out great. I listened.
You could have
to you
still
guys,
placed
have
the pickup order and got there at 2:00 and been none the wiser.
Yeah, but it would have come at the expense of the conversation.
I don't know how your Julia feels about it, but that's got to be like $8 you're wasting.
It's not $8. It's probably like $4 for the tip. Yeah, we're DoorDash pros now, so like we don't use we don't have like the delivery fees, but we do make sure we tip. So just try to pay it forward and to enjoy my quality time with some of my podcast co-hosts here.
EJ, I agree that this did not happen in a vacuum. But I am now more curious, what does it take to become a DoorDash pro? Because I feel like I am still on the amateur level of the food delivery game.
I'll give you some tips off pod on how we can really up our DoorDash game. I don't want to give any free endorsements, although we're giving a lot of shout outs to DoorDash now. Yeah. So yeah, I'll give you some tips, but listen, I think what I did was totally reasonable.
Okay. Well, we'll let the commenters weigh in on that. Let us know, in the comments below the video, what you think about this decision from EJ. And on tomorrow's show, just to tease it, we're going to get into why EJ thinks hands are weird. So I look forward to that.
Yeah,
What did you hear
I'm
from Nick
looking forward to that
Sirianni?
one.
What did you hear from Nick Sirianni today, EJ?
Yeah, it wasn't the most newsworthy press conference from Nick Sirianni. Not a lot of big news items, but I did find it interesting. Him talking about he sort of had to address some of the stuff he had said earlier in the week about not placing blame, but instead finding solutions. He talked about like the Eagles' habits on Mondays, especially to actually hold players accountable. I think that that's more public messaging than really what's going on behind the scenes. I think that was something that he had to address. I thought it was also noteworthy that both Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni have now talked about Monday's meeting between the offensive staff and the players, and how it was a very productive meeting. I saw quotes from Saquon Barkley, I think with NBC Sports Philadelphia as well, where he talked about how they had a big conversation about what they want to accomplish offensively and how they should be approaching things offensively. Nick Sirianni did. He talked about the feedback that they got from the players in that meeting, and how that's an important thing, to get that feedback from players. So more about just like the general feeling of the team going into this week. I think it's going to be very interesting to kind of get in the locker room later today. You got to remember, like last week we were in there for one day. So, a lot's happened since we've gotten an extended time in the Eagles locker room. So I think it's going to be really interesting to hear from players this week. But yeah, Nick Sirianni definitely painting a picture of a team that is hungry to get back out there, hungry to kind of right some of the wrongs we've seen in the last 2 weeks.
EJ, one of those wrongs is something that Bo and I talked about for the first 20 minutes of the show, and that's the run blocking. And the professor, he on Twitter today, I believe we have a graphic for this as well.
What a pro.
Saquon he's being contacted behind the line of scrimmage. It's basically night and day from last year. So I guess, like, what are you going to look to hear from any of the offensive linemen that you talked to? What did Nick Sirianni say? Do you think that probably factored in to this whole sort of this powwow that the offensive players had with their coaches?
Yeah, I mean, Lane Johnson certainly, kind of foreshadowed probably his input, which is that he thinks that the offense is predictable and that they probably need to incorporate more runs to the perimeter, runs to the outside. We've seen the Eagles really not have a lot of success with the inside zone running plays that they typically have run. So I think that's going to be a big part of it. I wonder what the gap scheme, the gap scheme runs. We haven't seen quite as many of those from this year's team. Obviously, I know that Tyler Steen isn't quite the same force that Mekhi Becton is, so maybe that's part of it. But I want to hear from some guys about where the gap scheme runs have really gone, and then in general, I also want to hear about like where the quarterback inclusive run game has gone. I think there are elements to last year's run game that we just don't really see a lot of, and I think that this will be a good week to get to the bottom of it. I want to ask some players about those elements of the run game, because I think it's easy to see like what the major problems are. Like obviously they're just not getting the push that they got last year. They're not moving people as effectively as they were last season. I think the attrition up front is a big part of that. You look back to last year, how much they ran the ball and how they had that prolonged season. Obviously Super Bowl runs, but even still, like when I was talking to Jordan Mailata about that a couple of weeks ago, I pointed out like, well, you guys were in the Super Bowl at the end of the 2022 season, and this year it feels different for some reason. So I think we're starting to uncover some of the answers, but I think more variety will definitely be a big part of it, especially based off of what Lane Johnson said after the Giants game.
So after this hit with us, you're going to head to practice, and obviously some injuries to be concerned about. You got Quinyon Mitchell, you got Jalen Carter, you got Landon Dickerson. If you could pick only one of those guys to play this weekend, who would you want it to be?
It's a good question. I think I'd have to go with Quinyon Mitchell.
Interesting.
Justin Jefferson is a daunting matchup, especially if you have Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson as your two outside corners. So I understand, Landon Dickerson. If you told me he's like going to be 100%, I would.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Consider
At
him
this
more
point,
heavily.
you got the bye coming almost. Like, just let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, to me, it's like I wouldn't expect 100% Landon Dickerson. So that one's kind of out. And then from there, like, I understand that Jalen Carter might be the more impactful player. He's the game wrecker between these guys, but just like the drop off that you get from Quinyon Mitchell to either Keely Ringo or Adoree Jackson as that second outside corner, I think that's a big drop off in a week where you're going up against a good receiving core with a coach that knows how to get those guys open. Like, even if Quinyon were out there, you'd still be worried about how is Kevin O'Connell going to get Justin Jefferson matched up against, Adoree Jackson? Like, how is that going to happen? Like, so if you tell me that Quinyon is at least following Jefferson, like making it a little bit more complicated, I would feel a lot better about the Eagles defense. So I think I've been begging to jump for this all season. I feel like, the Quinyon Mitchell, like the drop off, I think that you can make a really compelling argument that because of who's behind him, he is the most important player on the Eagles defense.
EJ, last one from me. He might not even be the starting quarterback this weekend. It might be JJ McCarthy, but what have you made from afar of the whole Carson Wentz 2025, call it a mini revival in Minnesota?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually will be, I'll say I've been a little underwhelmed by it because I thought that there was a real chance that this was he was gonna look awesome. Because we've seen what the Vikings have done at quarterback, like what they've been able to do for journeyman quarterbacks, guys who haven't been overly productive. And, I think like Kevin O'Connell's done this, like Kevin Stefanski has done it as well, where it's like you see these guys who like have been backups for a really long time come into that offense and just run it really well, because I think that those offenses are really protective over quarterbacks in a lot of areas and can kind of simplify the game for them. So, he's played okay. And I think that probably is a product of the system that he's walked into. But I thought there was like some sneaky potential for him to like look really good running that Kevin O'Connell offense, because we've seen Kevin O'Connell do it with less, honestly.
Okay. Well, EJ, make sure that you like hang around the parking lot just in case there's another impromptu meeting. Get that scoop.
That's a good point. Yeah. I do spend a lot of time in the parking lot. I'm kind of guilty of, hanging out in my car probably a little too much.
Namdi.
So yeah.
You know what? I do that
hopefully
too.
it's not like a bad sign.
Yeah, I don't need to be in the, the reporter's room. I got stuff going on in my car.
Yeah.
Good place to eat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
all right, AJ.
Unless you're Namdi.
We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2:00 with Fran, with potentially a special guest and the debut of our new Eagles producer.
All right, guys. I'll see you.
Thanks, EJ.
See you, man.
And with that, we head to our final break of the day on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Bet365 has not one, not two, not three. No, 90 million users worldwide. And they live stream over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA and the NHL. Bet365, you know what? I call them the Lewis and Clark of live in-game betting because they pioneered the bad boy. Today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. And we got a Thursday night game coming up tomorrow night. Pretty good game, I think. Thursday night touchdown. Good place to go. Bet365. With the Thursday night touchdown offer, you can place qualifying parlay bets totaling $20 or more on tomorrow night's game and get bonus bets for every touchdown. Terms and conditions apply. Download the app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. With Bet365, new customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Bonus bets can be used on the total, spread, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Guys, are you excited to catch NFL games this season? Of course you are. Then getting tickets has never been easier than with the Game Time app. You don't have to deal with those login screens, prices jumping at the checkout, all of those things that can go wrong with buying tickets online. The Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's incredibly easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included. So what you see is what you will pay. And it is a super simple process that, you can look at from your seat views. You have the lowest price guaranteed, and Game Time will credit you 100%, 110% of the difference. Man, I can't talk right now. Anyway, fees are included. You will know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. It's not just games. You can see shows as well. There are a bunch of things you can check out on the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for 20% off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, Create an account and redeem code PHLY for 20% off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today.
Welcome back to the PHLY Eagles podcast. We got a super chat from our man, Pat Phoenix, who says, Eagles organizationally don't know how to handle success. Dysfunction the following year after all 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2018, 2023, now this year. What say you, Handsome Rich?
It's something I think about a lot, Pat, as well. Like,
Yes.
it's just the Eagles are a rarity in that they can reach the highs that the Chiefs, that the Patriots, that all of these other dynastic organizations can do, but they don't really stay there. I think part of it, I don't think necessarily the case with Jalen, but over the years, the quarterback position has changed a bunch. The coach has changed a bunch as well. So that's a part of it. I don't know. It makes the whole experience a little more interesting, though. You know, that there are these peaks and valleys. I'm sure people would love sustained success. That said, like, Nick Sirianni's record is what it is over these past 5 years. That's pretty darn good. I don't know exactly why that is the case, but they kind of remind me my favorite. This is to bring it to an EJ topic. My favorite football team, Chelsea. They go up and down. They win the Premier League, they win the Champions League, but man, they have years where they just stink. They're just mid-table the entire year, despite having one of the highest payrolls in the EPL. So it's definitely interesting. I don't know exactly why it's the case, but you know.
Yeah, I think my general take here is that first of all, it's just hard to sustain success in the NFL. It's very difficult, especially when you play all the way into February.
Sure.
That makes it more difficult the next year. So that's the table stakes, is that it's hard. I do think that there is a particular DNA about the Eagles organization that does exacerbate dysfunction a little bit. And I think it's part of the way that Howie Roseman runs the organization. I'm not saying he wants dysfunction, but he has talked about he wants, like people competing with ideas, and there's kind of a competition to that aspect. And I think that also goes for the players on the field and the locker room and the coaching staff. And when you lose, those things get worse. I don't know. I'm not saying it's all Howie's fault. He's the best general manager in football. I'm just saying I think some of the way he runs things does not portend like people in the building being happy for a very long time.
Yeah, there's probably something to that. I honestly think the biggest example of that this year, I cannot believe how bad this AJ thing has gotten so fast.
Crazy.
Like in the offseason, when, there were all those reports out of New England, can they get AJ Brown because he played for Mike Vrabel once? I thought that was absolutely crazy. You bring up the dead cap hit and all that stuff. And here we are 6 weeks into the season. It's been a rough go, and hopefully it'll turn around. But yeah, I mean, as this situation has sort of progressed and not gotten any better, I was like, it's only the Eagles where, they have this game, this unbelievable Super Bowl performance. Jeffrey Lurie's beating his chest in the offseason about, this is the best team of all time. And it's just like, all right, yeah, we're back to chaos, and it's okay. I mean, it's also, there's also an element too of, and I mentioned this on the other, the pod on Monday, where, you watch the rest of the league, and you're right. There are a lot of flawed teams, and the Eagles can get right back in this for sure. There also are a lot of coaches who scheme up plays for their playmakers, help less talented offenses like achieve success.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eagles don't have that right now. And it's one of those situations where you're thinking like, man, if we could just have a little bit of competency on the offensive side of the ball, it feels like they're missing out. But then like you turn around and there's 2 Lombardi trophies there in the past.
Right. You
years.
feel bad for complaining, but it's hard not to complain.
It's true. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a weird situation, but I completely agree that the Eagles sort of, their ability to reach these highs without sustaining the success in sort of a boring fashion, it's an outlier around the NFL.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And if you like complaining, stay tuned for more in Bovertime. Julia, how you doing over there? Feels like the chat's showing you some love. And they've correctly identified that you're leaving the show because you hate to work with me.
Yep, that's accurate.
Yeah,
No,
makes sense.
just kidding. Not at all. I'm just
happens to everybody.
It's not really like hit me yet, so it's gonna be a very emotional day tomorrow. But I'm not going far.
You're going to that restaurant to deliver EJ's lunch.
It will take me a while with the stairs, but I'm not going far.
What do you think would be more embarrassing? What would make you feel worse, losing to Carson Wentz or losing to J.J. McCarthy?
That's a great question. I think J.J. McCarthy kind of stinks.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got to be Wentz, though, just because of the history.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Yeah. Even though he might be better than J.J. McCarthy.
Probably. Now, he's also dealing with an injury, right? I don't know. It is funny thinking back to 2020. Carson finally gets to throw to Justin Jefferson.
Yes. I have nothing else besides that.
What happens if the Eagles draft Justin Jefferson instead of Jalen Reagor? Who knows? Okay, what else you got on your mind?
Nothing. I mean,
I believe we have Carson Wentz's stats that we can show. Julia slaved over that graphic. Need to make sure it's worth your while.
So I was a little surprised that EJ was underwhelmed with Wentz. I don't know. I just seeing him as sort of the backup in KC who just is never going to play. Like he had fallen quite far over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know. Those numbers are okay. And I think the one that really stuck out to me, the fact that he's getting rid of the ball faster than anybody who's really just played one game of football, a minimum of 50 plays, is shocking to me. And that's going to go back to the coaching.
No,
right?
that was not the case in Philadelphia.
No. Carson Wentz, I mean, he's not doing those over the shoulder interceptions.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Remember when he would just wildly miss the 2-yard check down on the sideline and just like sail it over the guy's head and like this guy's broken.
Yeah, the 2020 season, I think it was week 3 when they played the Bengals and they tied them. I was like, okay, this is just not happening this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doug punted to tie. Remember that? And it was like 4th and 5 at the midfield or something like that. A minute left. Might have got the exact specifics wrong, but he punted to tie. That was tough.
That was tough. Yeah. Anyway, so it would be more embarrassing if they lose to Carson Wentz this year. But I have been surprised. I don't know. I feel like he's been more competent than I expected, at least
no
for
doubt.
The player. Now, maybe I can't really think back to past Kevin O'Connell. Well, if you look back to Sam Darnold was playing some of the best football in the league last year. So if you're grading Wentz on that
now
scale,
he's playing well out of Minnesota.
That's
so
a good
maybe
team.
you take away some credit. I don't know.
Like we mentioned that there are a lot of flawed teams in the NFL. I think the Seahawks have been one of the better teams in terms of their consistency. So yeah, it would be more embarrassing to lose to Wentz, but I think it's gonna be McCarthy probably just from what we've heard. So we'll see. Okay. Brian Flores, at least Jalen is bad against sim pressures now and not blitzes, so it's not a full week.
Right, but he's gonna, he's got stuff cooked up to just ruin Jalen's day.
Yeah, but if it's blitzes, I mean, I don't know. Once that first half against Todd Bowles, I felt like that was the final blitz boss. Where I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, that felt like that, and then they didn't play well in the second half, and then
he's on.
Brian Flores watched that tape too.
I mean, he's on a new path now with the sim pressure boss or whatever. Yeah, but Brian Flores is awesome as a defensive coordinator. Yeah, I mean, there was those couple years where they played them in week 2 at home in prime time. I don't know. For some reason, the NFL just loves that scheduling.
Yes.
Just like Tampa on the road in week 4 to the Eagles too as well. So I have no idea what the Eagles are going to provide. I mean, I think this is a team, though, that if they do regroup and they do regain sort of their base level of competency from past years, from last year, that they should be able to handle. But I don't know. I mean, they're like 2.5-point favorites. I think that's probably a little high considering what we just saw last week. I know they're playing off the bye.
Yeah. It's a total coin flip to me. I don't know. But you know what it does make me think of? The Eagles going to Minnesota. You and I spent a lovely week together.
Oh, yeah.
Several years ago.
That's right. I mean, what is the town that Mall of America is in?
Bloomington.
Yeah, Bloomington. Yeah. That is where we spent most of our time.
Oh, man. That was cold. Just the walk from the hotel, which was like just through a parking lot to the Mall of America. That was a dangerous walk.
We want to talk about lazy moves. Short walks,
you want to talk about a guy who is lazy? Here's a guy who's taking the shuttle 100 feet.
Yeah, because it was freezing. Yeah, exactly. Not in that voice, but yes, it was freezing, man. It was so cold
Yeah.
that the walk across the parking lot and across a very small street.
Yes.
Yeah, like we're talking, I don't know, 300 yards. I took the shuttle a couple times. And also there was that, I think that was the first podcast meetup on,
Yes.
I believe it was on the Friday night.
On the Friday night, met Rich Bobby for the first time, among other sickos. It was at like the
was it a David Buster's?
It was not quite a David Buster's, but it was a David Buster's adjacent thing.
Yeah. It's great. Played some Pop-A-Shot.
That's when I first saw how good you are at Pop-A-Shot. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who can pop a shot. Rich, fantastic. Sweet lefty stroke.
There was a bowling alley in there as well. Yeah. No, I mean, we spent the whole week basically cooped up in the Mall of America, which I mean, like, look, the Mall of America, there's a lot of stuff to do there. But yeah, that was an interesting Super Bowl experience.
That was my first Super Bowl. I had nothing to compare it to.
Probably much different. I didn't go to the next two. Probably much different than those ones, right?
Warmer, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The only time,
but actually, it wasn't that bad from just everything was there standpoint. Like, there was no commuting time. Like in Arizona, it's like it did go like 45 minutes just to get to the media availabilities.
The only time I've ever been to Minnesota, there's been two. It's been that Super Bowl week, and also the Sixers had just traded for James Harden, so his first game was in Minnesota. That was also in February. Minneapolis in February is a very cold place. Oof. Yes, that's why they got the Skyway systems, though, man.
That's true.
Very nice thing where you can just walk, like, honestly, through all of downtown Minneapolis and not go outside.
That's right.
Yeah, it's nice.
We talked a little bit to Brandon Graham about that experience as well. If you want to check out the latest episode of the Unblocked podcast with Brandon Graham, wherever you get your podcasts. And I will put out the call for anybody in the chat. If you or anybody you know can fix an elevator, please get in touch because we are in dire need of an elevator fixer. I don't know what you call them, an elevator mechanic, elevator sensei. I don't know what it is, but we need you.
Do you have a body part that hurts the most walking up those stairs?
No, but I think we all agree that it feels like it should be getting easier, and it's like every day is worse than the day before.
Totally. I was like actually out of breath today, even though I've done it 4 times in the past week. Yeah, and I gotta say my thighs were burning. I don't have those Duffy thighs.
It is I think the floor 4.5 where it's the worst.
Yeah,
because once you get to 6, you got one more. But at 4.5, you've gone up, and then there's that sign outside 5. It's like you made it, but no, we didn't.
Cruel. I hate that sign. I think about ripping it every single day. Yeah, here. I'm like, and I want to write in Sharpie. Unless you're going to the 6th or 7th floor.
Yeah. Every day.
You know what they say, Bo? The altitude is what gets you.
Yeah, that's right. All right, good stuff, everybody. Thank you to Mina Kimes for joining us. Thank you to Julia. Julia's going to be here tomorrow, but we'll have a nice send off somehow. Thank you, Rich, and thank you to the Cream Tube for joining us on the.
I'm not laughing at that, EJ.
Call in line. Thank you to EJ Smith. Back tomorrow with EJ, Fran, and somebody's debut on the PHLY Eagles podcast. We will talk to you tomorrow, and as always, we love you. Good job.
We all silly like the mayor.